Welcome back. The Motor Sales Real Estate Team and local not-for-profit Strive Higher NYC, or I should say Incorporated, are actually partnering for the Family Wealth Building Day. Now, the event will focus on initiating conversations, removing cultural taboos, and beginning the process of start walking towards the opportunities of creating generational wealth. And joining us now to share more, we have the real estate salesperson and team leaders at the Motor Realty, Adon Morales and Vanessa Villanueva. And thank you, Adon. Thank you, Vanessa, for being with us, and glad to have you.
Glad to
Yeah,
be
thank
here.
you so much for having us. We're super excited about this.
Well, super excited to have you and really talk about this because, in a lot of ways, you're really tackling wealth building, and that is something that really is a challenge for many in minority communities. So, Vanessa, give me a little bit about your mission here.
Sure. For the last 16 plus years, Adon and I have come together to focus on building wealth in our communities, providing resources, and just having things readily available to our community, including in the Spanish language. And it's something that we've always been very passionate about. So when we met Olga Baez with Strive Higher and found out about her mission towards financial literacy towards children, it just made all the sense in the world to partner up and to bring Family Wealth Building Day together.
So, Adon, what is this wealth building they're going to actually consist of for somebody who doesn't know?
So we really love the way we put it together. You know, working with Olga. What we're doing is that we made an event that works on both directions, right? It has one side is for parents, and the other side is for children. So we partnered up with the principal at CS 55, Mr. Luis Torres, and so we're obviously targeting that age range for this event between 7 to 11 years old. But what will happen is that the day will consist of breakfast. Then they're going to come and they're going to do a money 101, learning about savings and just having a general understanding of like credit and what finances are. That's going to lead into lunch. And then they're going to split up again, parents and children. And we're going to be talking at that point about how to accomplish some of the goals to attain home ownership while the kids are simultaneously being entertained and learning about money and finances.
We talk about learning about money and finances, and sometimes that's not really prevalent in schools. So I know you guys have a special heart for making sure this happens, and particularly because when you look at what goes on in the area of generational wealth, we do lag behind. So, what have you seen, and what can you give us in regards to generational wealth, particularly in the minority community?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So it really is from something where there are a lot of us that are privileged to have that sort of exposure, and unfortunately a large majority of our community does not have that sort of example in their life, or don't have those sort of conversations around the dinner table. So we just wanted to really just integrate that a little bit more on a more familiar setting, and just talk about, what sort of houses are around in the community that you're in, that not everything is necessarily for rent, and how, and owning a home and what that means in terms of building generational wealth, closing the wealth gap, being able to create a legacy and some sort of stability in a lot of our communities, which are getting pushed out through various forms of like gentrification, for example. So just letting them know that they can and should become more invested in their communities and taking those little steps on building credit, income, savings, and things like that, and just breaking it down a little bit more for them.
Don, talk to me a little bit about the fact that we're seeing less people, particularly because of inflation and inflation rates, really fill out applications for buying a home, but yet and still, you're still at your job, still making sure that people are armed so that way when the rates are right, people take advantage of it. What do you do in terms of preparing people for home ownership?
Well, I think that the first thing that we like to do is to really create a plan, right? A plan that's structured around them, their family, and their needs, right? Because people look for a home for different reasons. And it's not always associated with, the cookie cutter perception of like, oh, I want to buy a house. Sometimes it could come out of necessity, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of scenarios in life that happen where your dwelling is the most important thing other than your family itself. So that need is always going to be in our society, regardless of inflation. And we just look for ways to creatively make that possible for every individual.
And I think that the root of our goal is to make sure that they are making an informed decision,
Exactly.
right? That it's always at the forefront of what they can afford, and then taking that stepping stone, right? It doesn't always have to be the house the first go around. That's how you kind of leverage that property, with when the time is right. So just getting them started is always better to
Absolutely.
buy or
There's
own
there's no
versus
there's
renting.
very rare scenarios where it makes sense to rent over owning.
Yes.
Right.
Even buying a starter property, like for example, my mother purchased a $90,000 co-op when I was about 9 years old, and she busted her butt to make that happen. That co-op 10 years later turned into the money to buy the house that she lives in now. She lives in Bergen County. She's got a pool. That all started with that apartment that she bought. With that $9,000 down payment. So
It
it's it,
changes your
yeah,
mindset.
it's a vessel. It
Right.
really is.
So for people who are watching right now, I know that they want to think, what do I do in order to get in? How do I participate in this? What's necessary for them to be able to participate in this forum?
Yeah, so the event is totally free. We have amazing sponsors through the New York City Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, DoorDash, Chase, and can go visit the Eventbrite link, that'll probably pop up on the screen here, and you're just gonna RSVP, show up, and just be open to learning and asking a ton of
That's
questions.
it.
That's what we're gonna be
That's
here
it.
for.
Yep. Just bring an open mind, and that's all we ask.
And Adon, one of the things I like about what you're doing is not only are you involving adults, you're really tackling the area of children and introducing this to children at an early age. Were you actually exposed to this at an early age?
I was not, and I paid the price for it. To be honest with you, I'm a first generation Dominican. My mother is like literally my hero. She got educated, she did her thing, she worked her butt off. But finances was not something that we talked about. And I honestly like it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I finally embraced finances and started tackling it. You talk about generational wealth and you talk about even in some ways like systemic disenfranchisement, right? When you have a generation that's teaching a younger generation, you have to eliminate the gap. If mom cannot talk about it with their child, there's a gap there, right? And that's what we're trying to do is hit both at once so that those generations moving forward in that family are not going to have these taboos and are going to understand financial literacy.
Yes.
We don't want people getting their first $300 credit card and their credit's ruined for 10 years to come. And that's what happens to a lot of young kids that are going to college or starting their lives. They make one mistake in the beginning because they didn't know any better. So our job is to try to teach them.
Yeah. And Vanessa, for yourself, was it an early entry into financial literacy, or are you two a late bloomer?
No, so I was very fortunate, that my
She's
mom
better than me.
that my mom exposed me very young. I'm a second generation realtor, so my mom always talked about just ownership and different investment opportunities. But her core of her being was always to share that with families that maybe were intimidated by it, had questions and didn't know where to start. So she always promoted that within our communities, and that's definitely rubbed off on me,
It's a beautiful
plenty.
thing. You
So
can really see how those opportunities literally change that entire family's life
Hmm.
yeah,
for every generation to come. The impact that home ownership has on filling in this gap, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see those people who are introduced to it early, how far ahead sometimes they are simply because they were
yeah,
introduced to it early. But what you're doing is you are changing generations, creating wealth opportunities through this informational platform. And so I want to thank you both for being with us and the work that you're doing. If you want to know, it's the Moravia Real Estate Moravia Realty, and they have a special program that you can join in on the website moravia.com. Also follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Moravia NYC. And I want to thank you both for being with us, and congratulations. And hopefully we'll see a lot of people participate in the program.
Thank you
yes.
so
Looking
much.
forward
Thank
to
you
it.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, everyone.